what we also have to do is build our business in a way that will absolutely help us to survive. Because if we don't, fast growth can cause all kinds of problems for us. Excessive growth can be extremely dangerous to a business. It can be dangerous for any number of reasons. I don't want to go through these too long here, but let's just say it's amazing. Could massive sales growth cause you cash flow problems? Could it? It seems like it wouldn't. I've got all this sales. Why would I have a cash flow problem? Because you have to finance it. You've sold a bunch of stuff. You have to buy it before you can ship it. You could have a cash flow problem. It could create operational clumsiness because if you had to ship 100 units a day and now you have to ship 1,000 units a day, it changes the systems and the procedures in the business. And then also, you can end up with customer service problems because you don't ramp up fast enough or don't have good systems or don't have the right people in place. Oh, and then some people, they explode their sales and they start spending money like crazy. Oh, I'm making all this money. I can spend money. And of course, then there's decision-making issues because here's what's really fascinating about, you remember Estelle, she was talking about wealth psychology. There's a very interesting principle of wealth psychology among entrepreneurs, that entrepreneurs quite often have a financial comfort zone. They're very happy to grow their business up to, say, €1 million in revenue, but then they have a hard time breaking through that. And then one day they finally break through it and they get up to 3 million, and there's another kind of plateau. It's difficult to break through. But if you break through those things too rapidly, you become uncomfortable. And if you become uncomfortable, you might downward correct. In other words, you might hurt the business. Does this make sense? So it's really key to understand these things. Of course, that falls also under the category of leadership shortcomings. Because if you suddenly go from €1 million business to a 10 or 15 million euro business, and you have not been working on yourself and your leadership capacity, these things could cause difficulties. And then, of course, there's human resource risks. That is having the right people in the right place at the right time. If you do not have the right people in the right place at the right time, then who's going to end up doing everything? Who? Yes, us, individual, you. You're going to end up doing it. And that's why for many people, as they grow a business, their business simply makes them work harder. So I want to show you something that again might seem so unbelievably simple to you as to not be so powerful, but it really, really is. And it's based on the idea of organizational charts. So many of you will have seen organizational charts in business, but this is different than an organizational chart. This is something that we call a role map. A role map looks a bit like an organizational chart, but instead of being an organizational chart, what it does is it maps all the roles in your company. This is really key. You'll notice there are no names. There are no names. It's just the roles of the business. And so you know what? I did this. So many people come and go, Eric, I'm going to get myself a good business mentor. I'm going to do it. I'm going to get myself a great business mentor. I go, when? Well, I'm going to build my business a little bit first. Seriously? Does that make sense? Like if you're building a huge apartment building, should you build the apartment building and then focus on the foundation? Are you with me here? You got to start as you mean to go on. You got to build the foundation at the beginning. And so I did this process of creating my role map from the beginning when I created my company, before anybody was hired. And so I've created my role map. And by the way, the first version of business freedom is you quit your job and then you start a company. I have business freedom. I've quit my job and I own a company. In fact, on my role map, guess who the managing director is? Who's the managing director of my company? Everybody say Eric. That's right, everybody. It says so on my business card and everything. Yes, I feel very important. And you know what? I have to get myself a sales director. So who's that going to be? Oh, and then, okay, all right. I have to have a finance director. Who's going to do that? Who? Seriously? And then the operations director? And then all of the salespeople and everybody else. I'm everybody? What kind of business freedom is this? I quit one job and now I have all these jobs. Has anybody done this? Yeah. Stop it. It starts like this. When you first create this chart, it's extremely stressful. When you first create it, you start to get a real sense of how deep it is, like how many jobs you really have in the company. But now you go through the next steps. You go through the next steps. Once you've populated the whole table, once you've put your names on there. Now, some of you have employees, so you put the correct names in the boxes. Once you've put the correct names in the boxes, you start to highlight areas of problems. For many of you who already have employees, let me tell you how you'll know you have problems. One way, I do this exercise with large companies. And when I can always, within 15 minutes, I can go into any large company and I can immediately begin to tell them what kind of problems they have in their company just from doing this exercise. And here's how. If you have lots of employees, even if you have 5, 10, 15, 20, 300 or more, then when you do a role map on a department, here's how you know you have challenges. One problem is like this. One person's name is in too many boxes. Is that a problem? Yeah. And how about this? There are too many names in one box. Yeah, that's another problem. Or how about this? There's no name in the box. That's definitely a problem, right? So what we then do, once we've populated it with all the names, is we start prioritizing. So we start taking a look and saying, all right, the red boxes are the boxes I need to get myself out of quickly. I'm not good at those things or I don't enjoy them. I need to get myself out of those boxes quickly. The green boxes are boxes that I want to get myself out of soon after that. And the blue boxes, hey, I'm okay to keep doing that for some time. So in this case, look, I'm probably going to be the sales director for quite a while. I know that. I'm okay with it. I enjoy it. It's okay. But I don't want to be doing my own finances. And I don't want to be running operations. And I don't want to be doing all the warehouse stuff. So I know the boxes that I need to get myself out of. And then once I've figured out which boxes I need to get myself out of, I can start replacing myself. So I got myself a Dave in the shipping receiving department. Why did I get myself a Dave? Because of two things. One is that I'd be sitting in a meeting with a client in my suit and tie. Then I'd have to change out of my suit and tie into my warehouse clothes and do all the shipping and stuff. And then I'd have to change back into my suit for the meeting with the bank. And it was like every day was like that. You guys know Superman? I was thinking of getting a phone booth installed in my office so I could change quickly on my way to the warehouse. I needed to stop being in charge of the warehouse, so I got myself Dave. And then the other thing I found out about Dave is that I could hire Dave for, say, 10 euros an hour, and I was worth a lot more than 10 euros an hour to my company. So let's say I was worth 50 euros an hour. That meant that every hour I was shipping something in the warehouse, I was costing my company 40 euros an hour. Does this make sense? So I got myself Dave. And then I continued to grow the business. I knew which jobs I wanted to get myself out of. And so I got somebody to come in and help with the bookkeeping and the accounting. And then I got more people into the warehouse department, and I started hiring some salespeople. And then one day, Dave had proven himself so well that he became the warehouse manager. And then Lucy, she'd been working with me for so well and done such a great job with the finance that she actually became the finance director of the company. And then I got myself a Phil, and I got myself Russell, and there I was, the managing director of a company with people doing their jobs. But I planned it. I created this map before I started. So I knew that this was going to happen. And the minute that I made this stuff red and green and blue, the minute I did that, my stress levels went down because I knew that I wasn't going to have to do that job for very much longer. Look, you probably have jobs that you have to do in your business today that you don't enjoy so much. And so if you don't enjoy it so much, do you sometimes put it off? Yes? And if you and by the way, when you finally get to it, do you do a really good job of it or do you rush through? Rush through, right? And so you don't want to be doing those jobs. But here's what's really interesting. Once you put a time limit on it, once you say, you know what, 6 months, I'm going to get myself out of that job. What's really funny is for the next 6 months, you actually do the job really well because you know it has an end. Humans have a weird way of seeing the present. Whatever's going on in the present, we feel like it's our whole life. How many of you have ever been so sick with the flu that you seriously sat there and wondered if life was worth living? Has anybody had that? Like in that moment, the flu is so bad, you're like, my life is going to be like this forever. Well, that's how I feel about doing accounting. The minute I sit down to do accounting, I feel like this is going to be my life forever. And so I put it off and put it off. But the minute I made a decision that I wouldn't be doing my own accounting anymore, I started doing it properly because I was preparing for the replacement. See, it's part of the plan. And so what happens when we do this exercise effectively at the beginning is we create a roadmap to business freedom, and then we have a map that we can follow. So let's go through the steps. And the first step is you create a blank role map. So you go into your business with your team if you have a team, and if you're by yourself, even more you should do this. You create a blank role map, not of how the business looks today, but of how you want the business to be. Of how you want the business to be. How is it going to be in 3 or 4 or 5 years? What are all the roles? Here's some basic stuff. You know there's going to be a sales department. You know there's going to be marketing. You know there's going to be operations. You know there's going to be finance. And then underneath that, every business is a little bit different. So you create your role map with no names on it. Once you've got the role map, you then fill in the boxes with your name, where your name should go in every box that you're still doing. And you put in the other people's names in their boxes. Then you highlight the boxes that need to change. So if you're doing this for yourself, you highlight the boxes that you need to come out of. If you've got a company with a larger organization, then you highlight the boxes that are problem boxes. Like if there's 2 or 3 or 4 names in one box, you need to highlight that box and make a change. And if there's a box, if there's one person who's got his eye, you know what, guys? We bought this company, the Hollywood Special Effects Company, and after I bought it, one day somebody came to me, one of the managers came to me and said, you know, this guy here, this guy Brian, if you ever lose Brian, you're going to lose the entire company. You're going to lose the whole company if you ever lose Brian. I'm like, whoa, nobody told me this before I bought the company. We call that a business iceberg, right? Something that you didn't know about, and it's coming up into the fog, and bam, right there it is in front of you. I'm like, you're kidding me. If we lose this guy, yeah, he's not going anywhere. He's totally loyal, but if you ever do lose him, you're losing the whole business. I said, oh, we did this process. We went into one of the boards, and we put up a big whiteboard. We created the role map. Then we put the names in the role map. And guess what we found out? Is Brian's name was in like 70% of all the boxes, and we employed at various times of production between 30 and 70 people, sometimes up to 200 for a big movie. And he was in 70% of the boxes. Do you think that's a problem? It's a problem on so many levels. It's a threat to the business because if he ever goes, we're in deep trouble. But it's also a problem because if we ever want to grow the business, he's a bottleneck. You can't put him in any more boxes. So as you try to grow the business, nobody's learning how to do their jobs because he's in there doing them all the time because he's so quality-centric. He's an incredible guy. And we did this whole process, and we started moving him out of the boxes. And you know what's really fascinating after that is that a family event happened. And he ended up having to move to New York, so we lost him. No kidding. The guy we thought we'd never lose, we lost him. And you know what? The 6 months after we lost him was the most profitable 6 months that company ever had. Ever. Not because he was a problem, I want to be clear. He helped us do this. He was a phenomenal guy. We just could never have done it if we didn't go through these role maps. It's really key and really important. So you go and highlight the trouble boxes, and then you document each role. Now, guys, this is the point where some of you are going to glass over and go, Eric, this has been interesting and fun, but now it's starting to sound like work. What do you mean I have to document each role? You mean I have to write down the stuff I do every day? And yes, you do. You do. You got to do it. You know, so many people come and they go, Eric, I got to hire somebody. I need a new accountant. I need a new bookkeeper. I need an assistant. I need somebody to help me in my business. And I'm like, great, why don't you get one? Oh, I'm way too busy. I'm way too busy to hire somebody. I'm way too busy to train somebody right now. Oh, I couldn't possibly. Well, if you're too busy now, when are you ever going to do it? When you're not so busy? When the company's crashing? Because then you're not going to have any money. So one day you're going to have to solve this whole thing and get it done properly, right? We don't want to, the easy way to not be too busy, it's really simple. You write this stuff down. So for me, I would, if I'm in my accounting department, being my accountant and my bookkeeper, I go over and I go, all right, it's time for me to raise an invoice. Oh, I hate raising invoices. Piece of paper, right at the top, how to raise an invoice. First step, open software. What's the software called? QuickBooks. What's the next step? Open the company record. Click raise an invoice. Enter in the data according to this format. Save the invoice as a PDF. Send an email to the client from this template and attach the invoice. Done. Done. Pretty good, right? Now let's try something out. If I finally go hire a bookkeeper to come into my company and help me out, I finally managed to go get myself one, and then that bookkeeper comes and sits down at the desk, and I go, great, today you're going to be raising invoices. And here's how you do it. Here's the piece of paper. In fact, what I'd like you to do is just raise an invoice while I sit here so you can ask me any questions. How long is it going to take for me to train this person how to raise an invoice? 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and they're going to know how to do it. But yet, what do most people do in most companies? They go, hey, you're our new bookkeeper. Great, there's the system. How do you raise an invoice? I'm not really sure. Hope you help us to figure that out. Right? You do this. Now, some people say to me, but Eric, okay, great. I could do all that. I could do all the work, but I just don't have the patience to write all this stuff down. And let's be honest, how many of you are thinking, whoa, that's a lot of work to write down every role in the company? How many people think that's a lot of work? You're right, it is. You know what's more work? Doing all that stuff for the next 10 years. Because you didn't write it down, so you couldn't train somebody else. Does it make sense? And then how about this? Are there maybe creative ways to get this stuff done by other people? For certain there are. Here's one. Can you go get an intern or a student that's looking for work experience and have them come and work at your company for a week? Can you do that here in Estonia? Yes? So what if you went and got an assistant and you said, or an intern, and you said, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to follow me around for the next week, and every time I'm doing something, I want you to write down what I'm doing and ask me the steps. So if I go to raise an invoice, you got to stop me and say, what did you just do? What did you just do? And write it down. Top of the first page, how to raise an invoice. Top of the next page, how to enter bills in the system. Oh, this page, how to prepare a shipment for shipping. How to receive stuff in the warehouse. Oh, this is how sales calls are made, and this is how the CRM system is updated. I want you to track all that stuff down. After a week of an intern doing that, do you think you could have a lot of your processes organized well? Absolutely, you could with almost no effort. And then when you go to hire somebody, it's so simple. You go, oh, here are the pages you need. Guys, the worst kind of training in the world is the most common kind of training in the world. And it's what we call trickle-down training. It works like this. You bring in an employee and you go, hey, welcome to the company. Really glad you're here. What we're going to do is get you to work with Jim over here. And you're going to work with Jim for the next week. And Jim's going to teach you everything he knows. And then we hire the next employee a couple of months later. We go, oh, you're going to work with the new guy. And he's going to teach you everything he knows. And we keep doing this. Then what's going to happen is that the pure knowledge that the first employee might have had is going to be diluted, watered down for the second one, and for the third one, and for the fourth one. And you wonder by, 5 or 6 generations, nobody knows how to make a sales call anymore. Why you used to get 3-in-1 closing average in your sales room, and now you only get 7-in-1 because they've moved off the scripts or they're not using the systems properly. If you want to have true freedom in your life, really true freedom in your life, this process of creating your role map, populating it, and then documenting each role so that it's easy to train people will be one of the best investments you ever make anytime, anywhere, anything to do with your business.